Okay, so when you have typed in the address, please go to full screen because everything's really been designed around the buttons being in the right place when you're in full screen mode. The first decision you have to make is how many of the 150 characters are going to have the disease. And in the first instance, it's best to start small. If you leave this blank or put a 0, then you'll get a random high number allocated. So let's put 2 people will have the disease. So we go and we download from the database all of the characters, and 2 of these characters will have the disease. Now, we don't know which ones they are because at the moment they all look exactly the same. Now, you personally have been allocated a particular character, and you can control what that character does or how they behave. So you can decide whether or not you want their mask to be on or how you want their hands to be. So if you want their mask to be off and you want their hands to be unwashed or washed or sanitized, you can change that. You can also change the characters that you are going to interact with, that you're in charge of the interaction. Now you'll notice that there are 5 different characters that you can interact with, and you can interact with them either casually or closely. And because with 5 interactions, things get pretty crazy pretty quickly, because if you imagine all 150 characters all interacting with 5 people, what I've done is I've made it so that at least in the first iterations of this game, that only one of these will be active. So what you'll find is that only one of the 5 interactions that you've been given to play with is actually an active one, and it's the green one. So you can change that. We don't have to do it with Golduck. We can do it with Alakazam, and it can be close interaction, and that will then change that. We can change these as well. It's just that they won't come into play. So we could change Oddish. We could say that we're going to interact with Zubat, and that will change it there. But those red interactions won't be brought in to the theatre of play. Now, the interactions you can see on the right, they are ones that you can't control because they're ones that people have decided that they want to interact with you. So the person in charge of Machoke, for example, has decided they want to interact with you. The person who's in charge of Ghastly has decided that you're one of their 5. But actually only one of these is active, and that's the one from Executor. You can actually change your character, but please don't in the class because there'll be 150 people, well, 100 people all allocated a character. The moment you start trying to pick a new one, the one that you've got, Raticate in this case, will still be marked as being taken. Now, and that's until this timer comes down. So basically, you've got 10 minutes to play with your character. However, you can, to stop the inconvenience of any changes and decisions you've made being lost, you can at any stage click this reclaim button, and that will send it back to 10 minutes again. This button here, release unused, is really a desperation thing. It's basically if you can't find a character, then that will search through the database and try and find or try and release characters that haven't been used for a bit. Now, having downloaded these characters, we can download some interactions from the database, in which case they'll be paying attention to these things up here. Or we can just choose ones that the system can generate randomly. So when you do this, you'll be generating interactions that have actually got nothing to do with the interactions that other people have set. The other thing you can do at any stage is you can download a character summary. So this will tell you what the state of play of each Pokemon is, but of course that would be cheating. So let's not do that at this stage. The other way of cheating is to toggle the markers. So by clicking this button here, toggle markers, we can see all the healthy characters are green. So it means that the unhealthy two, I think we chose, didn't they? They must be lurking behind there. Or we're in a situation where they haven't quite got sick enough yet for the colour to show anything else. So they are infected. It's just that they're not actually ill. So let's untoggle those. So let's download some characters from the database. That accesses the database, brings in all the interactions, and at this stage we can run all the interactions. Now we can set the threshold, in other words, how much virus has to be communicated from the infected person to the non-infected person for there to be an infection, sort of like a measure of how infective the virus is. We can change the complexity of the infection. Is it just going to account for whether or not the two characters come into contact, or are we going to take into account the cleanliness of the hands, the wearing of the mask, the time of contact, all of those things? So let's keep things really simple, really low threshold, very, very simple transfer, and click run. Now each interaction will happen by the characters coming forward to the front here, interacting, and then going back to where they were. And that's something that I've set to 2 seconds. And I've set it to 2 seconds just so you can have a look to see what's happening in terms of the logic as two characters come together. However, very, very boring. Let's slide this slider along to 0, which means things will pretty much happen instantaneously. So that's one round that it has gone. The word round actually appears up here, but it's been hidden by my silly menu. Let's see if we can... No, that hasn't helped. Oh well. Likewise, the number of days is shown over here. It'd be nice to get rid of this bar. No, that's not getting rid of it. Anyway, so one round has gone. We could download a summary of the interactions.
Powering down.
So let's have a look to see what that looks like. The interactions again come over as an Excel spreadsheet, and they will basically tell you that in, say, interaction number 10, Caterpie not wearing a mask but with sanitized hands interacted with War Turtle, who wasn't wearing a mask but had sanitized hands, and there'll be 150 odd of those to go through. So we could do another character summary to have a look to see what the state of play of each character was, but again, that's sort of cheating at this stage. We probably ought to run another couple of interactions. This time let's run a random set. Same deal as before, and that's been done. So again, we could have a look at the characters, we could have a look at the interaction summary. We could toggle the markers. The other thing we could do is advance the days. Now, there is a plus sign up here, which is basically the number of days of infection, which you could just advance after you've done each round, but you could advance a couple of times around. It's really up to you, because the infection in each individual is going to ebb and flow. Let's actually just have a little sneaky look at how things are developing. And you can see that there are now quite a few people that are infected. All of these people that have got brown on them, they're definitely infected. So just after 2 rounds, with just one interaction per person per round, really, we've already got quite a spread of infection. So you can imagine how that really ramps up when there are several people infected and the um, uh, well, actually, I was going to say we haven't been very um, fastidious in taking into account the mask and the hand washing and so on, and the it's just this threshold here. We've set a very low bar. If we said that there has to be 10 units of virus done each time passed to get an infection, then that would change things quite dramatically. Um, so advancing the days, you can now see a lot of red coming in. You can see a lot of people have been infected because they're showing this purpleness, which shows that they're now immune. They've got antibodies to the virus. Oh, nearly everybody's infected. Anyway, that's basically where we are. I'll just make a little alteration to bring these markers down here because that's caught me by surprise a bit, those being up so high. Good. All right. Well, hopefully that will be something which we can enjoy playing with.